And to the secret documents scandal. Well, it's all blown up in US President Joe Biden's face. For more than a year, there's been this supposed big scandal. Donald Trump took secret documents from the White House after leaving his office, and he wouldn't give them back. In fact, we were told he could even be handing damaging secrets to Iran or China. And the FBI, under new President Joe Biden, raided Trump's home to grab those documents, which, hey, were shown to the watching world. Biden claimed last September to be shocked by what Trump had done.
How anyone could be that irresponsible? And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
Biden's Attorney General was even contemplating charging Trump with criminal offences. But then banana skin time in Hypocrisy Central. Turns out Joe Biden has also kept secret documents from his time as Vice President to Barack Obama. First, a bunch of them was found at a Washington think tank where Biden had worked before becoming president. These were found in November, but that was kept secret until a couple of weeks ago, following a news report. In fact, the news was kept secret until after the November elections. More documents were also found in Biden's home, in his garage. But Biden last week said, well, don't worry, the garage was locked because, after all, that's where he kept his precious Corvette.
And by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
Joining me is Adam Creighton, Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper. Adam, thanks for your time. How embarrassing is this for Joe Biden?
Andrew. Well, I think the short answer is very embarrassing. I mean, the Democrat establishment from the president down for the last 4 months has been lambasting Donald Trump, of course, for a very similar crime. And as we hear now, the president has done a very similar thing. So it's very embarrassing. It's worth actually pointing out that it's probably delayed the president's announcement of whether or not he runs again for president in 2024. He certainly hinted many times toward the end of last year that it would be early this year that he would make that announcement. But certainly it's worth pointing out that that is not going to happen now because of this. It's also worth pointing out that it's been quite embarrassing, I think, for the Department of Justice in the US. I mean, these documents were found on the 2nd of November. The Attorney General made an appointment of an attorney to look into the finding of the documents on the 14th of November. But it wasn't, of course, until the 9th of January, which is almost 2 months later, that the public found out about this. And I think there are serious questions to answer there too.
Yes, well, in the meantime, was an election, I guess. They didn't want to spoil the election for the Democrats. Now, a lot of journalists of the left, I'm reading, say, well, look, Adam, there's no comparison between, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Trump had far more documents, and at first he wouldn't give them back, whereas Biden, well, his own team found them and have handed them back. Fair enough?
Well, it's certainly true that there are some differences. I think there's 300 documents in the case of Trump and about 20 or so in the case of Biden. But you could also say that Biden had these documents for 6 years, roughly 6 years, and Trump only 1 or 2 years, depending on when they were taken out. But I think that there are big fundamental differences too, which actually could be in Trump's favour. For instance, he's always argued that, yes, I had the documents, but I had every right to have them because I declassified them, whereas that's a completely different argument from the president, who says that he didn't even know that he had them. It was totally inadvertent. So it remains to be seen whether you can even compare those two cases. And I think there's a great deal of randomness here because, as you know, the Attorney General now has appointed a special counsel for each of these cases, and special counsels do have a lot of independence. They can make a recommendation to press charges or not. Of course, we would assume that they're not going to collude with each other, so we don't know, what decisions they are each going to make.
Yeah, you assume, being such a nice guy, you assume that, but others might have a different view.
Yes,
I was struck, though, Adam, by the fact that some of the secret documents that Joe Biden kept, and I should point out, he as vice president could not declassify those documents. Trump could declassify his because he was the president. But some of those secret documents that Biden kept were about Ukraine. And we know that his son Hunter got a job with the Ukrainian gas company that paid him more than $100,000 a month even though he didn't have any expertise in gas, didn't have any expertise in Ukraine, and was just trading on his father's name. Now, is this something that needs to be investigated, this Hunter Biden link, the documents, etc., etc.?
Well, look, certainly I think it will be investigated. I mean, the House of Representatives now, as you know, is controlled by Republicans, and the House Oversight Committee has already announced an investigation into the Biden family finances. And so certainly that will include both these documents and, of course, also the material that was found on the infamous laptop of the president's son. So, yes, look, these factors will certainly be investigated. And as you suggest, it may well be that there is some link between those emails on the laptop and these documents found in the president's house. Just on the issue of the vice president that you mentioned, there is actually a big legal debate here about whether or not the vice president can actually declassify. So that may be something in Joe Biden's favour. But there's so little case law on this because, this is an act from 1978, which is, very, very rarely seen used in the courtroom. So we really don't know how, if charges are ever pressed, and I personally think that that's going to be very unlikely now, but if they are ever pressed, we don't know, how the courts would decide these issues.